My girlfriend walked away the day I lost my job. She said I was no longer enough. I can't date someone without a job. I did argue or beg I let her leave before we begin. Don't forget to like and subscribe, it really helps the channel. I lost my job and my relationship on the very same day. She looked me straight in the eye and said, I can't be with a guy who doesn't have a job. I didn't argue, I didn't beg. I stayed quiet because there was something already happening behind the scenes that she knew absolutely nothing about. A few weeks later, she spotted me stepping out of a brand new car. My phone exploded with messages from her. The response I sent back was the last thing she ever expected. I'm 29 years old, and until about 3 months ago, I truly believed my life was stable. I'd been dating Brooke, well, that's the name I'll use, for just over 2 years. We met at a friend's housewarming party, bonded instantly over our shared addiction to true crime podcasts and trashy reality TV, and everything felt natural, comfortable, safe. At least that's how I saw it. I worked for a medium-sized tech consulting company. It wasn't flashy, but the salary was good, and I'd been there nearly 5 years. I handled major clients, my manager trusted me, and I was being lined up for a senior role that came with a serious raise. Brooke worked as an assistant manager at a small boutique hotel downtown. She constantly complained about rude guests and unpredictable shifts, but never actually tried to change jobs. She lived in a tiny studio apartment owned by her aunt, paying reduced rent. Every now and then we'd casually talk about moving in together someday. That someday never arrived, and I never pushed the issue. Everything collapsed on a Thursday. I remember clearly because Thursdays were reserved for client reviews. That afternoon, I was scheduled to present a major strategy proposal. Instead, at exactly 9:32 a.m., I received an urgent calendar invite from my director and someone from HR whose name I didn't recognize. The meeting lasted less than 15 minutes. The company was restructuring. My entire division was being dissolved and merged with an overseas team to reduce expenses. They offered me a different role, technically still within the company, but it came with a 25% pay cut and overnight hours to match international schedules. I asked for time to consider it. We'll need your answer by Monday, my director said, eyes glued to her laptop. By 10:15 a.m., I was walking out of the building carrying a cardboard box. Inside it were my desk plant, a chipped coffee mug, and a handful of cables I'd probably never need again. I sat in my car in the parking garage for half an hour, not panicking, just numb. Completely disoriented. Eventually, I messaged Brooke, something happened at work. Can we talk tonight? She replied almost immediately. OMG, what happened? I'll explain later. Dinner at Rossi's, okay. 7:30 p.m. I drove home on autopilot and sat on my couch staring at my phone. The severance packet was sitting unopened on my kitchen counter. I already knew what was inside: 3 months' pay, 2 months of benefits, and a letter filled with cheerful corporate nonsense about new opportunities. What I hadn't fully processed yet was that I'd set something else in motion 2 months earlier, something that was about to change everything. You see, I'd been working on a side project, the kind you agree to help with because a friend asks, not because you expect it to go anywhere. My college roommate Tyler had started a tech company about a year earlier. It was an AI-powered app designed to help restaurants optimize menus using real-time ingredient pricing and customer behavior. Back in February, he asked if I'd help with their go-to-market strategy and polish their investor pitch. I agreed, thinking it would just be a weekend distraction. He couldn't afford much cash, but he offered equity instead, a small percentage of the company. I signed the paperwork on a lazy Sunday afternoon without thinking too much about it. 8 weeks before I got fired, Tyler called me at 10:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. His voice was shaking. Dude, he said, we closed our Series A. I sat up instantly. You did what? $6.5 million. Brooke was sitting next to me watching TV. I stepped into the kitchen. So what does that mean for my share? I asked. You're 4%. On paper right now, it's around 260 grand. But if we hit our targets and get acquired in a few years, early equity holders could be looking at 7 figures. I didn't tell anyone. Not Brooke, not my parents, no one. It felt too uncertain, too unreal. I didn't want to celebrate something that might never fully materialize. At 7:30 that night, I met Brooke at Rossi's, our usual Italian place. She was already sitting in our booth, scrolling through Instagram, looking annoyed. I sat across from her. Hey, she barely looked up. So what's going on? I was laid off today, her eyes widened. What? Company restructure, my whole department was cut. They offered another role, but it's basically a demotion with a big pay cut. Her expression hardened. Are you serious? Yes, so you're unemployed? Technically, yes. But I've got severance and I'm already reaching out to contacts. She slammed her phone down on the table. You know what? This is actually perfect timing. I blinked. Perfect timing for what? I can't deal with this right now. Deal with what? Being with someone unstable, someone who doesn't have their life together. I'm 27. I need security. It's been less than a day, I said quietly. That's not the point. Then what is? She sighed like I was exhausting her. I've been questioning us for a while. We're not moving forward, so you're ending this now. This just confirms what I already felt. She grabbed her jacket. I'm sorry, but I can't date an unemployed guy. She stood up and walked away. I stayed seated, staring at the untouched breadsticks. A minute later, the server asked if we were ready to order, and I had to explain that my date had left. I went home, cracked open a beer, and finally opened the severance packet. 3 months salary, $19,500, insurance forms, career transition resources. I laughed alone in my apartment, then I called Tyler. How soon can I actually do something with that equity? I asked. What happened? I got fired today and dumped. Same day, he said, damn. That's brutal. It's fine, I replied. Just answer the question. Well, it's not liquid yet since we're private, but we're about to scale fast. He didn't hesitate. I can bring you on full-time as our chief marketing officer if you want, Tyler said. Starting salary would be $82,000 a year. Your equity stays exactly as it is, and you'd be coming in at the ground level as we scale. He paused for a second, then added, honestly. The growth path here beats most corporate ladders. I didn't even need time to think. When do you need me? Could you start next Monday? Absolutely, I said. I'm in. I officially joined Tyler's company the following Monday. I told only my parents and my brother, and all of them were visibly relieved that I'd landed on my feet so quickly. Brooke and I shared a lot of mutual friends, but I kept everything quiet. Meanwhile, she had already changed her relationship status to single and posted one of those vague motivational quotes about letting go of things that no longer align with your future. The workload was intense. Startup life was nothing like corporate work. No endless meetings, no office politics, no hiding in the background doing the bare minimum, but I loved it. For the first time in years, I felt like my effort actually mattered, like I was building something real. Things moved fast. By the end of my second week, we signed our first large restaurant chain. By week 5, Tyler was already in discussions with another investment group about a potential Series B round. I stayed quiet online, no posts, no LinkedIn updates. I wasn't intentionally hiding, I just wasn't advertising my life. About 6 weeks after the breakup, I finally decided to do something just for myself. We'd received our first quarterly commission checks, and I was still driving the same worn-out 2011 Toyota Corolla I'd had since my early 20s. I wasn't trying to flex, but I'd always wanted something a little nicer. So I went to a dealership and bought a certified pre-owned BMW 3 Series, nothing excessive, 4 years old, clean record. But it was silver, sleek, and mine. That Saturday morning, I was leaving a grocery store when I noticed her. Brooke stood across the parking lot with a guy I didn't recognize, both of them laughing as he showed her something on his phone. She looked up at the exact wrong or maybe perfect moment and saw me walking toward my car. I watched her expression shift. Confusion, recognition, then something unreadable. I didn't stop. I gave a small nod, unlocked the car, and drove away. About 15 minutes later, my phone went wild. Was that you? Since when do you drive a BMW? Did you get a new job? Why didn't you tell me? We really need to talk. I was back home putting groceries away, debating whether to reply at all. Eventually, I typed, started a new role a while ago. Things are going well. Hope you're doing okay too, she called instantly. I ignored it. She called again, and again, 4 times in 10 minutes. Finally, I answered. Yeah, where do you work? She asked, no greeting, no build-up. A tech startup, I'm the marketing director. Silence. Since when? Since the week after you ended things. Another pause. Longer this time. Why didn't you tell me? We weren't together anymore, I replied. Didn't seem relevant. I mean, I would have wanted to know, she said. Can we meet, please? I think we need to talk. About what? About us, she said quickly. I think I made a huge mistake. I almost laughed. You were pretty clear about how you felt. I was scared, she said. I panicked. You have to understand. I don't have to understand anything, I interrupted. You made your choice. Please, she said, just coffee, 1 cup. I should have said no. But a small, petty part of me wanted her to see exactly what she walked away from. Fine, I said. Tomorrow, 3, I confirmed. That coffee place on 5th. She arrived 20 minutes early. I could see her through the window, constantly checking her phone, fixing her hair, opening her front camera. I walked in right at 3. Hey, she said quickly, standing up like she might hug me. I nodded and sat across from her. So, I said. So, she echoed, forcing a smile. You look really good, she said. Thanks. And the car, she added, it's beautiful. It gets me where I need to go, I replied. Right, she said, laughing awkwardly. She took a breath. I wanted to apologize for how things ended. Okay, I was dealing with a lot mentally and I took it out on you. That wasn't fair. Okay, I repeated. She frowned slightly. That's it. What else are you expecting? I don't know, she said. Maybe forgiveness, maybe we could try again. I took a slow sip of my coffee. Who was the guy at the grocery store? Her face instantly turned red. That's we went out a couple times. He's not important, she said quickly. It just looked that way. We went out maybe 3 times. You seemed pretty comfortable together. It was casual, she insisted. Besides, you moved on fast too. You've got a new car and some startup job. I'm working, Brooke, I replied evenly. That's what adults do after losing a job. I didn't sit around feeling sorry for myself. That's not fair. What's not fair is that you dumped me in a restaurant because I lost my job, I said. You literally said you couldn't date an unemployed guy. And now you want another chance because you saw me doing okay? I paused. Explain how that's fair to me. She didn't answer right away. The silence stretched, then she asked, so what's the salary like? I'm sorry, what? At the startup, she clarified. What do they pay you? I stared at her, genuinely stunned. That's really what this is about. No, she said quickly, I'm just curious. Right, I said, standing up. This was a mistake. Wait, please, she said. I hope things work out with your new guy, I replied, or whoever comes next. Take care of yourself. I walked out. She didn't follow. Update 3, I assumed that would be the end of it. I was very wrong. Over the next 3 weeks, Brooke tried everything. She showed up at my apartment building twice. I saw her from my window and refused to buzz her in. She sent long, rambling messages about growth, clarity, and realizing what truly matters in life. At some point, she even tracked down Tyler on LinkedIn and messaged him questions about the company structure and my role. He showed me the screenshots, visibly uneasy. Dude, he said, your ex is asking me about equity compensation packages. What the hell? She's trying to figure out whether you're actually successful or just pretending, I said. That's unsettling. Yeah, I know. Then about 4 weeks after that disastrous coffee meetup, I got a message from her close friend Lauren. We'd always been friendly. Hey, she wrote. This is awkward, but I think you should know something. Can I call? She added. I agreed. She called almost immediately. So, Lauren said bluntly, Brooke is kind of spiraling. How so? She's been obsessively stalking you online and asking literally everyone if they know anything about your job. Someone mentioned your company just closed another funding round. Yeah, I said, Series B 2 weeks ago. How much? 18 million. Jesus, Lauren muttered. Okay, here's the real issue. What? She's telling people you two are just on a break and that you're definitely getting back together. She's planning your future like it's already decided. That's not happening, I said firmly. I was very clear. I know you were, Lauren replied, but she's not accepting it. And there's more. What now? That guy she was seeing. She dumped him 4 days after she saw you in the parking lot. Why? She told him she's still in love with her ex. I felt pressure building behind my eyes. I think she believes if she waits long enough, you'll come back, Lauren said. Like you'll eventually cave. What do you think I should do? You need to tell her clearly, directly, unmistakably that this is never happening. She's living in a fantasy and it's getting worse. So I sent Brooke one final message. We are not getting back together, not now, not later, not ever. You need to stop contacting me. Stop asking our friends about me and move on with your life. I already have. I genuinely wish you well, but this is over. Please respect that boundary, she replied in under 10 seconds. You don't really mean that. You're just hurt and reacting emotionally. I understand. When you're ready to have a real conversation like adults, I'll be here. I blocked her immediately, her number. Every social platform, email, everything. Final update, it's been almost 5 months since I sent that last message. Life has been genuinely great, better than I ever expected. The company is thriving. We're projected to become profitable next quarter, and there are already early acquisition discussions with 2 major industry players. If either deal happens, my equity will be worth somewhere between $1.04 and $2.1 million, depending on the final terms. Last month, Tyler promoted me to Vice President of Marketing and gave me a seat on the advisory board. I haven't heard from Brooke directly, but mutual friends keep me loosely updated. Apparently, she bounced between several short-lived relationships, all ending badly. Lauren told me she was let go from the hotel due to excessive absences. Turns out she'd been calling in sick, so she could spend hours online digging for information about me and the company. The last I heard, she moved back in with her parents in the suburbs. I've gone on a few dates here and there, nothing serious. Right now, I'm focused on my work and rediscovering who I am outside that relationship. Turns out I'm doing just fine on my own. The strangest part, sometimes I replay that moment in the restaurant, the look on her face when she said she couldn't date an unemployed guy. I think about how close I came to begging her to stay. To promising I'd figure things out, to proving my worth. I'm grateful I stayed quiet, I'm grateful I let her walk away. Because the version of me she wanted, uncertain, desperate, thankful for scraps of affection, that version doesn't exist anymore. Maybe it never did. Edit 1. Some people asked if I ever learned the real reason she left. Months later, a mutual acquaintance told me Brooke had been talking to that other guy for weeks before the breakup. My job loss just gave her a convenient excuse that made her seem less cruel. Edit 2. Yes, I'm still with the company. We opened a second office and hired our 60th employee last week. Still feels unreal sometimes. Edit 3. No, I won't be reaching out to her. That door is permanently closed and locked.